Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Weightlifting House News Show, the only weightlifting news show in the world. And my word, have we had quite the week. The return of the new Chinese 81, Lasha Talakhadze reveals himself, and of course Rebeka Koha has converted to Islam and deleted all of her social media posts. As well as all of that, we've had some amazing lifting from the American side of the world, European, Asian, and everywhere in between. So, as always, let's kick things off with Team China. So let's kick things off as we always do with the GOAT, Liu Xiaojun, 81 kilo, multiple time world champion, Olympic champion, world record holder, who, as of yesterday, is now 37 years of old. So I feel like it's fair that his back squat and his strength numbers have come down slightly, even if his competition lifts haven't. This week he back squatted 210 kilos for a set of 5, which, if we go off his current back squat record of 270 rather than the 305 he did 6-7 years ago, we're actually looking at about 78% of his 1RM for a set of 5, which probably makes sense considering how fluid and easy all of these repetitions looked. Now, the Chinese weightlifting team have some of the best squats in the world, and they just move perfectly, so it's no wonder that I get questions about what the Chinese do to squat so well. So I thought I'd go over very quickly, from what I know, having spoken to some of the Chinese athletes and coaches, what it is that they do for their squatting training. So they actually tend to, at least when they get to the highest level, they only squat twice a week. One session, very heavy, very low volume, heavy singles, heavy doubles. This is the reason why you see so many heavy singles coming out from these elite lifters. Liu, Tian, Shi, all of these guys, you regularly see heavy back squats or front squats. So they do that max effort training style lifting. Then at the other end of the week, it's just high volume. It's 75 to maybe 85%. It's 8 triples, 5 triples, 5 fives, 3 fives. It's that kind of work right where the Russian training manuals say that you kind of need to be for the volume of your training. And that, as far as I know, is still how Liu Xiaojun trains to this day. Next, from China, and I'm pumped that we get to have this guy as a repeat guest on the podcast, it's the new Chinese 81 kilo Liu Delin, who I mentioned last week. He did that ridiculous 180 kilo hang snatch, which at the time I was saying is 16 kilos more than his snatch. At least 164 was the most we've ever seen from him. He did that at the Chinese Nationals last year, 2019. But I think someone told him, Mass Strength, Liu Xiaojun Baba, I don't know who it was. Someone told him that he was on the news show. And so a couple of days later, he created an Instagram page. At this point, I'm the only person who follows him. I'm going to actually post it on the Weightlifting House Instagram so that people start following this guy because his lifts are amazing. But right now, it's just like this two-way dialogue. Him posting a video, me replying saying it looks strong or it looks easy, and then him liking it. But this week he did a 170 kilo snatch, 170. So already we're just 3 kilos under the world record. We're 6 kilos up from what we thought he could do from the floor and just 10 kilos below that ridiculous 180 hang snatch. He then posted a 160 power snatch. And I mean like power snatch, not power snatch. None of this, power or nah stuff. Genuine power. I'm fairly sure he catches this certainly higher than Liu Xiaojun can catch it. Maybe higher than Li Dayin. I was blown away when I saw just the height of this pull. He then hit a 185 kilo power clean and jerk, I think another 160 kilo snatch, just amazing lifting. So go follow Liu Delin at Liu_Delin, Delin on Instagram. Now, speaking of the way that the Chinese train their squat, we have the king of the squat within China. It's Tian, the 2019 world champion, clean and jerk and total world record holder, who performed, I guess what you'd call the max effort version of the 2 squat days that Team China do. This week it was a 1 rep max pause squat. He did it a 6-second pause at 270 kilos, 84% of his 1 rep max of 320 kilos, which, according to Liu Xiaojun Barbell, is actually the most he really needs to be able to do. He's not going to attempt to push that. He's not going to put in the amount of work required to move it from 320 to 325 because it's such a tremendous volume of work. He really doesn't need that. He could spend that amount of time clean and jerking and snatching. Lord knows he needs to spend more time snatching. So I think that's kind of why he's just accepted 320, strong enough, and he's just hitting these 6-second pauses, maintaining his strength, doing some volume where it needs to be done, and basically just continuing to push that consistency at the higher level of the snatch and the clean and jerk. And finally from China, we have Deng Wei, the queen of weightlifting. Now, this week, she didn't do anything that we haven't seen many times before. In fact, she just hit a 125 kilo clean and jerk, but when Deng Wei posts anything, you just kind of have to talk about it because she really is the greatest to be doing it right now from amongst the women. Now, to put this 125 into perspective, as incredible as it is as a 64 kilo lifter, she has clean and jerked 147 kilos internationally. She did that at the 2016 Olympic Games where, of course, she took the gold medal. But she has also clean and jerked 140 kilos or more 11 times internationally, which just is so staggering. It's hard to comprehend that someone can have, over a decade in the sport, that level of intensity year after year. She never seems to dip down too much. And so this 125, it might only be 85% of her best, but even so, it's just great to see Deng Wei lift in any capacity. Okay, next we're going to head over to Indonesia for Eko Yuli Irawan, the 61 kilo weightlifter at Eko Power 61 on Instagram, who is to this day one of the most underrated weightlifters, even throughout history. I mean, he is now medaled at 3 consecutive Olympic Games, 2008, 2012, 2016, and he really is poised to not only medal in 2020/2021 if the games continue, but maybe even take the gold medal. So let's get into that a little bit. But first, just to touch on the lifts that he did hit this week, he posted a 130 kilo snatch and a 135 kilo snatch, way above double bodyweight. Of course, he's a 61 kilo lifter, but still some way off his all-time best. He's done 147 kilos in competition before. And it's funny, for someone who's been at such a high level for such a long time, in fact, he's medaled at 5 world championships as well as those 3 Olympic Games. It took him until 2018 to finally win that first World Championships. And he's had this amazing battle over the last few years with Li Fei Bin. So I kind of wanted to use this as an excuse basically to have the whole who's China going to send conversation, at least once again, because I've had this conversation before on the podcast. So you have to remember, China are only allowed to send 4 men and 4 women to the Olympic Games. That's just part of the new IWF qualification procedure to compete at the Olympics. And so China's got to work out, of their 6 men and 6 women who could win a gold medal, who are the 4 from each category that are most likely to win. So if we look at this men's side, it seems like Shi Ziyong is on lock. He's going in the 73s. No one's going to challenge him there. One of the 81s, whether it's Lu Xiaojun or Li Dayin, is going to go because it doesn't seem like anyone's really going to compete with them. And then they've got to choose between 2 of the following 3. Li Fei Bin of the 61s, Chen Lijun of the 67s, and then of course Tian Tao of the 96s. And each of those 3 has someone who's basically pressuring them, someone who's constantly just behind them, or sometimes even just in front, pushing them, and basically trying to make it so that they don't get selected for the Chinese team. And in Li Fei Bin's case, that lifter is Eko Yuli Irawan. I mean, Eko Yuli Irawan, up until the World Championships, had the world record clean and jerk at 174 kilos. That's now only been beaten by 1 kilo by Li Fei Bin at that competition. So these guys are very close, and there's a good chance that Eko's going to put enough pressure on Li Fei Bin that he's going to make the Chinese national team not pick Li Fei Bin for the Olympics. So that's basically the situation that Eko's in. He'll probably compete at the Asian Championships this year. He might be able to use that as a way to really up the pressure, push Li Fei Bin out of the picture, and then, who knows, on his 4th Olympic Games, he might pull an Oscar Figueroa and finally actually win the competition. Let's move over now to Japan, where we have the newly 96 kilo Toshiki Yamamoto, aka Toshiki Senpai, who hit this week what I would describe as his fastest ever 300 kilo back squat. Now, Toshiki is of course known for having an incredible back squat. I mean, this guy is disproportionately well known in the weightlifting world, at least comparatively to his lifts. There are a fair few weightlifters in the world who can lift what he lifts, at least in the snatch and the clean and jerk, who aren't particularly well known. But something about the way that Toshiki squats, perhaps partly to do with the way he looks, he is kind of way up there in terms of popularity. And this 300 kilo back squat, I think, is a good reason as to why. He moves it incredibly fast. It's kind of no wonder he was able to clean that 230 off blocks 2 months ago now, I think it was, 1.5 months, something like that. He also this week posted a video of a 220 kilo back squat for a set of 20. Now, I was really interested by this, not only because it's truly absurd, 220 kilos for 20 reps, weighing he's 96 kilos now, weighing about 210, 212 pounds is mind-blowing. And so I put that into a 1 rep max squat calculator predictor thing, just to see what they thought that he would be able to do a 1 rep max squat at. So I put it in 220 for 20 reps, that's 73% of his 1RM, and it predicted his 1 rep max at 367 kilos, which is clearly not right. He's clearly not capable of doing that, and it shows that these 1 rep max predictors are perhaps not what a lot of people hope that they are. But even so, I just thought that was kind of cool to see. I've done it with some other famous lifters in the past. I've done it with Tian, I've done it with a few of the other guys. So, and it's always been quite, pretty accurate, to be honest. So I just thought I'd give it a go as Toshiki, and turns out he's just phenomenal at repping out submaximal lifts. Next, we're going to move over to South Korea for the 109 kilo lifter Huyieop, who hit some really nice strength lifts this week. And one of them, a 130 kilo strict press. And the reason I like this is because it really is strict. It's a very nice press. It's not quite like the 131 kilo strict press that Ilya did in the video that I posted a few weeks ago. It beats Mesona, it beats Forrester Ose, and I just think it's a really impressive lift. He also did a 115 kilo muscle snatch, and it was a real muscle snatch. It was what the old version of a muscle snatch technically is. So, of course, recently muscle snatches have started to involve the dropping of an elbow, an exaggerated press out, whereas technically, at least back in the day, a muscle snatch meant that the elbows were never allowed to drop. It was a sort of lift that technically in competition would count. The elbows are always going up in this sort of motion, and that's exactly what Huyieop did here with this 115. So I kind of like the fact that he's sticking true to the official meaning of a muscle snatch. You're not going to catch me doing that. I'm going to press out as much as anyone, but even so, 115 from him is pretty nice. He then went and hit a 170 kilo snatch and a 185 kilo power clean and jerk. So solid lifting from Huyieop. Next, we have the return of the 67 kilo Lee Sang. And more than anything, this is a bit of a public service announcement. He posted a video of a 250 kilo clean deadlift, which is enormous. I mean, the world record in that weight class is 188 in the 67 kilo class. But I wanted to look at some more stuff by Lee Sang, and I went on his Instagram and I realized he hasn't posted many snatches or clean and jerks recently. I then went onto the IWF website to look at the official Roby tables, and I cannot see Lee Sang. He's not there. I don't know why. And so part of the reason why I wanted to mention this 250 is so that I had an excuse to ask if anybody knows what's going on with Lee Sang. Did he get injured? Is he out of the national team? Did he just miss a competition and withdraw from the rankings? I don't know. But if anyone knows, please comment below, DM me, whatever it is, because I'm genuinely really interested to find out what happened to my boy Lee Sang. Moving over now to Egypt, we have Abdel Rahman, aka Hulk weightlifter, who hit once again some really big power versions of the lift. So 200 kilo power clean plus hang power clean plus push press, which is actually really impressive. I mean, 200 kilos for a push press, to move it as easily as this, there was very little grind. Perhaps not quite of the quality and strength of Saeed Ali Hosseini's 190 that he did in the 2017 World Championships training hall, which is still to this day, as a power clean and push press, one of the most impressive displays of strength I've ever seen. Even though it's light, it's still, I mean, it's just the way that he moves it is incredible. But even so, Hulk weightlifter is incredibly strong at the moment. I just saw before this that he hit an enormous snatch off blocks. I didn't have time to sort of write it into the show, so I'll cover that next week. That's something to look forward to. But he really is back looking very strong. He also posted a video of another 210 kilo power clean. Of course, last week he actually did it with no feet as well, no foot movement. But this week, 210 kilos. He's got the whole squad behind him. Everyone's chanting, everyone's cheering. It's actually a pretty fire video, so shout out to Hulk weightlifter this week. Moving over to Qatar, we have Mesona, who hit this week a 200 kilo clean plus 2 hang cleans, and he does it in that sort of touch and go fashion where he drops the bar down, and before he's kind of paused, he just uses a stretch reflex to come straight back up for the 2 hangs. I mean, this is 87% of his best ever clean of 230. Of course, he hit the 230 at the World Championships last year, missed the jerk, but made the clean. His best clean and jerk, 228 from the Qatar Cup. 2 months later. But this, 87% of his best from a guy who's not even focusing on the clean and jerk right now. He's putting all of his effort, as he told me, into big snatches, a snatch off blocks. He said that he wanted that 200. Whether or not that's going to happen, I still don't know. I'm kind of waiting on that message from him, but I'm hoping he gets there. But anyway, 200 kilos for a clean plus 2 hangs is very impressive. And actually, I tell you what, I might use this as an opportunity to mention more about the weightlifting house plates and bars, because we're actually going to be sending Mezzo and his dad and the whole team a bunch of plates, a bunch of bars, and they're just a few of the whole load that's going to a bunch of different places, cities, teams, all around the world. So if you're interested in our weightlifting house plates and barbells, then check out the link below, weightliftinghouse.com, and you can get your stuff there. We've basically been unable to stay in stock with the recent demand from everybody, so we have a new pre-order launched. Everything's going to arrive early November, bars, plates, so if you want to bag yours, now is the time. So speaking of Mesona, because if you listen to the podcast I did with him 3 weeks ago now, he mentioned that he was stuck in Uzbekistan, he can't get back to Qatar, and so he's now training with the 2013 world champion from Uzbekistan, the 2016 Olympic champion from Uzbekistan, the 105/9 kilo Ruslan Narudinov. Now, whether Ruslan Narudinov is actually training to try and attempt a comeback at some point, maybe give Simon Martirosyan, Romnau, Yangzi, Drive Akbar a run for their money, I don't know. Probably not, but I kind of hope so. But even so, he is doing a little bit of training with Mezzo at the moment. This week he did 220 kilos on some clean block pulls. I was very excited, thinking that he might actually try and go under them, but he definitely didn't. And then a really beautiful 110 kilo slow-mo snatch from the ex-Olympic champion. Now, just very quickly, I don't think that a lot of people realize quite how good Narudinov is. During his career, he snatched 190 kilos or more 9 times internationally, which is more than, I believe, any other 105 ever. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I'm fairly sure I'm not wrong. That's how good Narudinov was. Now, let's stick with Uzbekistan, and let's stick with 109s. We had him on last week. He is my favourite up-and-comer. It's Drive Akbar. And once again, he has beaten his snatch. So last week he did that 190 in the IWF online competition. That was 2 kilos over his junior world record from the 2019 World Championships. Well, this week, albeit with straps in a training hall, he just hit 192 kilos, and it looks amazing. This is now 7 kilos under Simon Martirosyan's world record. It's 4 kilos over his own junior world record, and he's still just 20 years old. If you look at the Roby rankings for the 109 kilo class, it actually goes Simon Martirosyan, Yangzi, and then Akbar Jurayev. So he's doing really well. He's in 3rd position in that sense. And still, I'm assuming Yangzi is not going to get picked for the Olympics because he's not going to win, so why would the Chinese pick him? So I really think at this point, Akbar Jurayev is certainly my choice for silver medal in the 109s. Moving across now to Armenia, we have the 89 kilo junior snatch world record holder, Karen Avagyan, who, of course, back last year, I think it was the under 23 Europeans, hit 170 for that junior world record. And he just posted a video on his Instagram of a 220 kilo jerk. It's a squat jerk. It's a power squat jerk, kind of. He goes deep. He just doesn't go below parallel. I think it's still a squat jerk. But 220 kilos, that is 4 kilos over the world standard, because, of course, no one has now set a world record in that 89 kilo class since its inception. It is 16 kilos over Kedemar Vanilla's junior world record clean and jerk of 204 kilos. It's an enormous lift. He also hit a 130 kilo strict press, which is pretty mad. He's an 89 kilo lifter. It's the same amount as Huyieop hit that I mentioned earlier in this episode. It's more than Ilya, Mezzo, Forrester, and he's an 89 kilo lifter. So the 130, this strict press strong shoulders award this week, certainly goes to Karen Avagyan. Next, we have some really interesting news about the Latvian weightlifter Rebeka Koha. Now, I'm sure a lot of you clicked on this video or wanted to watch this week's episode or listen to this week's episode because of this bit of news, and it is really interesting, and I am going to go into it. Now, on the off chance that some of you don't know who she is, I'll very quickly give a quick bio, and then we'll get into the whole story. So, Rebeka Koha is 22 years old. She, in 2017 and 2018, took the world bronze medal. She took the 2018 and 2019 European gold medal. She's medaled now at 4 European championships. In fact, I think she medaled at the 2014 junior or youth Olympic Games as well. But anyway, I'm going to go through the full story of what has happened with her over this last week. And if you guys want to catch up on absolutely everything, there is a really long article that we've posted with all of the information at weightliftinghouse.com. So you can catch up, read it all on there. And if there are any updates, we'll update that article as well for you guys. So Rebeka Koha has announced, as per her Instagram, that she is converted to the religion of Islam, and as a result is deleting all of her photos and videos from her social media. She has also asked people not to post photos or videos of her where you can see her arms, her hair, her neck, her legs, anything like that. So presumably that means any previous weightlifting video of her in competition, or in fact any photo of her basically ever. She has, however, said, and this is quite a relief I guess to some of us, that she's not going to ask for people like Toshiki to necessarily take down the snatch and the clean and jerk tutorials. Some of that information will still be out there. She's just asked very politely that people don't post other photos of her because it now kind of goes against her beliefs. So if you're watching this week's episode rather than listening, you'll be able to see Rebeka is actually wearing a hijab and just a light-fitting scarf. So it's a little bit more modest, at least in something quite like a burqa. And in this post, she says the following. Dear friends, followers, and just everybody, I made a big decision in my life. And all I can tell is that I'm happy and thankful about it. I'm sure for myself that I did the right thing. The only thing what I'm asking about is respect. And if you have nothing good to say, you can leave and better remain silent. Today is a special day for me because I became a Muslim. At 3:48, I did the Shahada, which is the declaration of faith, aka converting, and entered Islam. From here, I believe that the new and beautiful chapter of my life can begin. As I'm now a Muslim, I would like to ask you to not post and share any pictures of me, if you have any of course, anywhere for a public use where is seen my hair and or body, arms, neck, legs, etc. So you get the point. Now this statement doesn't really go into whether she's going to continue to push her weightlifting career or not, and in fact she's actually denied any official statements. But the Latvian news is reporting that despite having some knee troubles at the moment, she is actually pushing to compete at future competitions. The one that they mentioned was the 2020 European Championships, which is actually set to go ahead in Moscow in November. Now whether or not that will be postponed or not and be with some of the other international continental competitions in March or April, I don't know, but right now it's good to know that she is still training and planning to compete at that gold tier event. So as interesting as all of that is, I mean, a few months ago she met a Qatari Muslim and they're now engaged. I think what I was more interested about, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are more interested about, is whether this is going to affect her weightlifting. And so Dan, the Weightlifting House editor who actually wrote this article, and I did a little bit of research. I happen to know some people from Latvia, so we were able to take a little peek into the Latvian news, which was very useful, as well as just digging some things up on the internet. We've got a little bit of an update with regards to everything we know about Koha, this decision, and the future of her weightlifting. So Latvian news reported that Koha actually is dealing with some knee problems, but is still training for some upcoming competitions. She's still training in Latvia at the moment. The Latvian Olympic Committee has expressed its support for her, saying that they particularly hope that this conversion will actually help her in her future athletic and Olympic endeavours. Rebeka's coach about all of this said, and I quote, "I think that everything is based on love. We talked to Rebeka before. She said that this would not interfere with her career in any way. But now there is another problem, health misfortunes. The doctor did not find anything in the initial tests, but Rebeka has problems with her knees. She is currently having difficulty withstanding a heavy load." He then went on to say, "I'm worried about whether Rebeka will be able to withstand the whole program. She started well in the Latvian Championship, but now there are health problems, and I know that Rebeka will not want to fight for the 10th position." So for those of you who are interested to know how Rebeka's going to end up competing, considering that she's basically said to remove all photos of her where you can see her hair, her skin, her legs, her neck, the IWF has allowed athletes to compete in full unitards since 2011, which has enabled several Muslim women over the last decade to compete internationally. And I can only imagine, though we haven't actually seen an official statement, that this is going to be the direction that Rebeka Koha is going to go down. So for all of you who are worried that this might be the end for Koha, this might be the point where she retires, I saw a lot of comments on Instagram and on Reddit and on Facebook saying things kind of down that line, that this might be the end of the road for her, she's going to retire, she's going to have a family. There is nothing that suggests that, and I don't want to do any sort of hypothesizing on this podcast. I just want to say what we know, report the facts, look at the interviews and kind of relay that back to you guys. But as far as it stands, Rebeka is simply converting to the religion of Islam. She's not going to stop competing in the sport of weightlifting. Whether she does or not in the future, I don't know, and that may well be the case, but as far as we know right now, she's going to continue to compete. She's qualified for the Olympics in a year's time, and if nothing else changes, and hopefully her knee gets a little bit healthier, she should still be in a position to get a medal and hit some new Latvian and personal records. Now, once again, the Weightlifting House News Show is brought to you by my friends over at Red H Nutrition, who, as I mentioned last week, are on a mission to help improve the sport of weightlifting through their products. All of the supplements that you can get at Red H Nutrition are WADA friendly, there is no underdosing, and of course they are performance driven. As I said last week, their decision to truly listen to the weightlifting community and learn what it is that we want as athletes is what drew me to them. And I'm really excited to be involved with them and help navigate them into the middle of the weightlifting community so that they really can start making positive change. You can support Weightlifting House by supporting Red H Nutrition, and in return, Red H Nutrition will support your nutritional needs, and maybe your knees if you get the joint and tissue support stuff too. Remember, you can use code WEIGHTHOUSE15, that's with a capital W and a capital H, for 15% off all Red H Nutrition supplements. Once again, that's code WEIGHTHOUSE15, capital W, capital H, for 15% off all Red H Nutritional supplements. Next, we have the section that I'm probably most excited about, the lift that for me is most interesting from this week. Lasha Talakhadze has finally revealed himself. Now, I'm sure everybody watching knows who Lasha is. He holds the heaviest all-time snatch at 220 kilos, the heaviest all-time total at 484 kilos. That's 8 kilos more than anyone else has ever done. He has won the World Championships 4 times. He's won the Olympic Games once. He has the 11th highest Sinclair of all time, which is a cool stat that you can read about in the Greatest Weightlifters of All Time book, where of course Lasha Talakhadze is indeed featured. And of course Lasha is also undefeated since 2015. So what did Lasha do this week? Well, he finally posted, which is very rare from him. We basically only see him compete and in training halls. He posted a video of a 255 kilo clean and jerk. Now 255 is enormous. It's a kind of lift that only guys like Lasha or Salimi, Rezazadeh, Taranenko, some of those bigger, heavier, stronger super heavyweights ever hit. And it's actually a weight that we've only seen Lasha do in competition 4 times. Twice in the last 12 months. We saw him at the World Championships. He did it on his second attempt, which is incredible. Of course, he did 264 after that for his second of 3 world records that day. And then he did it at the Roma World Cup in February. Again, 2 competitions I was fortunate enough to film him in. And that 255 was indeed his 3rd attempt on the day. Now, despite the fact that this 255 didn't perhaps look quite as easy as it did at the World Championships, where he was peaked, he tapered, the volume had been reduced, his fatigue had been decayed, and he was primed for an enormous lift, it still looks very good. The clean is ridiculously easy. The jerk often looks with Lasha a little bit slow. I think the reason for that actually is just the fact that unlike most weightlifters, Lasha's front foot lands before his back foot, which kind of goes against what people are taught. It gives him that look of almost pressing himself slowly under the bar, but he is still pretty fast. But even so, I mean, 255 is a weight that, excluding Lasha, hasn't been hit at an Olympic Games since Steiner did it in 2008. That's how rare it is to see a weightlifter do that. So I also want to talk about Lasha's position for the Olympics this year, because it's no surprise that he doesn't stand a good chance of going to the Olympics. He's going to the Olympics. He currently has more Roby points than any other weightlifter in the world. More Roby points than Xiaojun, who has the 3rd most number of points. More Roby points than Deng Wei, who's in position number 2. Lasha has 5,150 points. That's 100 more than Deng Wei, and it's actually more like 250-ish over Xiaojun. The stat that makes me maybe laugh the most, it's the most bemusing, it's the most extraordinary, is, and I'm probably going to have to explain very quickly again how this works. So for the Olympics, you have to have 6 competitions, 4 totals, and 1 total in each of the 3 qualification periods. So the thing that I find most interesting is you could remove Lasha's 4th performance, get rid of that 1100-ish Roby point performance, and just have him have the 3 other totals, the 3 other Roby points that correspond to those totals. And he will still be in first place in terms of Roby points in the super heavyweight category. He is still above Gormanasian. He is still above Fernando Reis. He still would sit at first place in that super heavyweight category with 3 performances over everybody else's 4 performances. That's how far Lasha is ahead of everyone. Nobody stands a chance. Not now, not last year, not throughout history. No super heavyweight ever is safe. Lasha Talakhadze has come. He has taken 2 all-time world records. Only 1 remains, 266 Taranenko. He's coming for that too. And then who knows, maybe he's going to go for the 500 kilo total at some other point. But anyway, that's the Lasha update. 255 from him, incredibly exciting to see, and hopefully he'll start posting a little bit more. Moving upwards and east a little bit, we are going back to Belarus. We went there last week for Petar Asayonok, who hit that 140 power snatch plus snatch. It was exciting to see him back. As I was saying, he hadn't done a huge amount since the 2016 Olympics. And then, almost as though he watched the episode, which you never know, he may well have done, he posted a ridiculous 180 kilo snatch this week. So if Petar is an 81 kilo lifter, that's 7 kilos over the world record held by Mohamed Ihab at 173. If he is a 89 kilo lifter, that's still 1 kilo over the world standard. There's still not yet a world record in that 89 kilo category, whether in the snatch, clean and jerk or total. But the world standard is set at 179, so it's still even more than that. I do not believe that Petar Asayonok, the 85 kilo from Rio, is now a 96. There's no way. I'm fairly sure he's an 81, maybe pushing into that 89 kilo category sometimes. So this 180 is amazing. It's also 10 kilos over his competition record. So Petar Asayonok, if you are indeed watching or listening, please post 185. Over and possibly south down to Albania, my geography is not great around that area of Europe, we have Daniel Godelli. Now, Daniel Godelli also posted a snatch, perhaps not quite as exciting as Petar Asayonok's 180, but even so, it was big. It was 170 kilos, 3 kilos under the world record that I mentioned, 173 by Mohamed Ihab, and considering he only hit 155 kilos at the World Championships 10 months ago, this is 15 kilos up on that, so he's clearly in pretty decent shape right now. He's not going to go to the Olympics. He hasn't got totals in each of the qualifying periods, so it's impossible. It's not like he can pull a Lasha and actually do that. Sarab, on the other hand, we're still waiting on him. I went over his kind of situation a couple of weeks ago. Sarab might be able to pull the old 3 comps out of 4 and still beat everybody to get there like Lasha. But Daniel Godelli is not doing that. But anyway, this 170 is good to see. He did 171 in 2014 in Almaty at the World Championships, but of course, he was popped shortly thereafter and so kind of lost everything and has almost fallen into weightlifting nothingness since. But even so, 170 from Daniel Godelli, kind of nice to see. Whether you care or not, considering he's been popped, I don't know, but you kind of got to mention that lift. Once again, we're going to head over to Russia, and once again, I'm not going to intend to break my pattern of only talking about popped Russian weightlifters, because there are only popped Russian weightlifters. This week, it is the provisionally suspended David Bedzhanyan, who once again has posted some great videos on his Instagram, and it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's worth a mention. And for those of you who don't know what provisionally suspended means, what it means is, and I quote, that he was suspended based on evidence arising from the investigations conducted by Professor McLaren and the WADA Intelligence and Investigation Department. And supposedly what it was the anabolic turinabol. So this week I posted a video of a 190 kilo snatch plus hang snatch, and it's old, it's not recent, he didn't just do that, it's from 2015. But what's impressive is, well, one, that's 95% of the world record at the time of 200 held by Romnow from 2008, but perhaps more impressively is that's 3 kilos over the most we ever saw from Bedzhanyan in competition. He did 187 in Mattie, where of course he then went and hit that world record 240, which he held for all of 1 minute before Ilya went out and hit the 242. But 190 from Bedzhanyan is a lift I really didn't expect that he'd be able to do in training even, especially for a lift from the floor plus a hang lift and a high hang lift at that, so not a lot of pull to gain acceleration. Really impressive lifting from him. Most exciting, I think, is the second video that he posted. So he uploaded a video a couple of days ago of a 230 kilo clean and jerk. Now, this looked, to me, more recent. It didn't look like a 2014-15 re-upload. This looked like something that might have happened within the last year, maybe even within the last couple of weeks. Who knows? So I'm not sure if David Bedzhanyan is still lifting, but this 230 looked about as easy, if not easier, than even someone like world champion, world record holder, Olympic champion Simon Martirosyan could do. So I'm really excited to see whether this is or not actually recent. In fact, just realizing that Simon Martirosyan is not yet an Olympic champion, so ignore that bit, but 230 looking quicker than Martirosyan can do it. I did notice in the comment section that Andre Arom now, who of course has been a world record holder in the 109 and the 105 kilo category, commented on that post by Bedzhanyan. I don't know what he said, I can't speak Russian. If anyone knows, I'm wondering if it's if there's something juicy about it. I'd love to know what their conversation was, what their dialogue was in that conversation, in that comment section of the 230. So if anyone knows, please do hit me up and let me know. Moving over now to Denmark, we have 55 kilo Sandra Jensen, aka Strong Piglet. Now, I'm a little bit late on this one, I'll be honest. I remembered seeing the lift, somehow forgot about it, and then didn't mention it. But I was reminded when I saw this week a 73 kilo snatch double, and it prompted me to think, she hit a PR recently, and it took her a few years to hit that PR, and it deserves recognition. So I went back and I found an 80 kilo single snatch PR that she hit about a month ago, which I think deserves a shout out. So go check out that lift. Sandra is incredibly athletic. I mean, not only does she hit an incredible save on the 80, she's posted other videos where she really twists and turns, gets pretty low under the snatch, but she's also been able to do things like this. So she did 10 muscle ups the other day, which for a weightlifter is kind of astonishing. I don't know of any other weightlifters in the world who can do that. Maybe Lou, maybe she, some of the absolute freak athletes. But anyway, incredible lifting from Sandra Jensen. You can follow her at Strong Piglet on Instagram. Moving over to Ireland now, we have Eoin Murphy, aka Gerfling, aka the Irish Fridge, aka the owner of Seeker Strength. And he hit a pretty tasty looking 180 kilo split jerk out the rack. Now, Eoin is incredibly strong. Of course, in the past, he's hit, I think, 290 kilos in the back squat, 230 kilos for triple in the back squat this week. His strength's a little bit down, but he's still clearly in pretty decent shape. And the 180 split jerk, I really like. I've always liked the way that Eoin jerks, despite the fact that in that video with Gabriel Sincrayan, he kind of gets roasted a little bit for his foot positioning or how slow he is or something like that.
Nice jerk. Me?
Yeah.
Oh, he said nice jerk. Yeah.
I always thought that was kind of harsh of Gabriel. But even so, 180, I thought it looked really great, so shout out Eoin for that. Also, guys, if you're interested, you can check out the Seeker Strength podcast. They recently had me on for an episode just to talk about the growth of Weightlifting House and everything that I'm doing. I just realised I've got a can of Dr. Pepper on show, which I'm just going to move because we're not sponsored by Dr. Pepper. And then also, I did another episode with them about a week later alongside Zach Tallender, where we just spoke a little bit about the McLaren Report. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me or about the McLaren Report, then check out the Seeker Strength podcast too. Across the Atlantic Ocean this week, and we really have to stop by again with the Santavy gym in Canada. Boady Santavy hit another personal record in the snatch, this time at 182 kilos. That's 400 pounds. That's 4 kilos below Saurabh Moradi's world record of 186. It's also a weight that only one person in that new 96 kilo category has snatched more than, or equal to, or more than in competition. Of course, that was Saurabh Moradi with his 186. And you can see that there are other Pan-American weightlifters taking notice. I mean, just in the comment section, Wes Kitt is writing things. I think I saw Fernando Reis writing things as well. Boady really has set himself apart as the best snatcher in the region. and he's doing phenomenal things. Alongside that 182, he also, that same session, hit a 210 kilo clean and jerk, which I think is just 3 kilos under his best of 213. So that gave him a 392 kilo total, which is amazing. But let's not forget, there are actually, and I went through this just to check, there are still 7 other 96 kilo weightlifters who have hit more than that total in competition over this qualification period. Of course, Sarab Maradi is one of them, Rustami's another, we have Yohedi Sakantsu, we have Mezo Hasona, we have Jonathan Rivas, we have Plesnyoy, and we have Tian Tao. So there are still a lot of weightlifters who are capable of hitting even more than that. But as Boady said, he thinks he's probably ready for 220 kilos in the clean and jerk soon. So as soon as we add another 10 kilos and we put him at the 400 kilo plus range in the total, suddenly that narrows him down to the top probably 4 lifters. Now, speaking of Wes Kitt's commenting on Boady's lifting, let's head over to the USA and talk a little bit about Wes Kitt. Now, Wes hasn't done anything truly extraordinary recently. He came on the podcast, he spoke to us a little bit about how his training's been going. He took a little bit of time off. He's been in a GPP phase, nothing particularly exciting, but I thought it was about time we had a little catch up to see how he was doing. He did post a video of a 250 kilo back squat triple, which is pretty good. I mean, I think the most he's ever done is 290 or 295, so he's already up at high 80-ish percentile for doing sets of 3, which when you're in a GPP phase is kind of impressive. He then hit a 180 kilo, they called it a power snatch off blocks. I think it's a POW. I think it might not even be a POW, it might be a full, but even so, it's crazy. I remember being in California at Cal Strength almost a year ago to the day, and Wes was working up heavy in the power clean, and he was going up to, I think it was 190 kilos, which is enormous. His best power clean at the time, however, was 201, which is also ridiculous. And he was going up to the 190, and Dave Spitz, the Godfather, leant over and said to me, "You will have never seen anyone move 190 like this before." And he was kind of right. I mean, the way that Wes pulled it off the floor, the acceleration that came off the thighs, he's so explosive. In the words of Dave Spitz, the rate of force development is absurd with Wes. And you can actually kind of see it in this 180 from the blocks as well. So maybe not quite as sharp as he has been previously when he's been in a competitive phase of his training. But even so, for a GPP phase, he's right on track for the Olympics next year. Also, before I forget, and I guess this does actually count as USA news, the feature film, The Weight, that I posted a video about last week, and I've of course had Adam and Zach Tellinger on the podcast to talk about it before, has hit its funding. There's still a couple of hours left, that by the time this podcast and video is up, the deadline will have been and gone, so don't worry about it then. But there is still a few hours to try and get a little bit more money, but they've raised $100,000, so they're going to hopefully secure the extra $1.06 million funding that I think they're planning on getting. So fantastic work to Adam Shiner and Zach Tellender. I'm really excited for it, and I guess excitingly and selfishly for me, it means that I get to go and do a little bit of filming with them, because I'm going to be working as one of the, it's either an announcer or a commentator. It's like my dream job, so looking forward to that. While we're doing random shout-outs, and because I know that a lot of the weightlifters in these videos have been wearing them, if you like anything from Virus, you can use discount code weightliftinghouse, all one word, all lowercase, to get 10% off everything at Virus International. That works in the USA, it works in Europe. I'll put a link down below or something like that. So discount code weightliftinghouse, all one word, all lowercase, at Virus International. Okay, let's stick with the USA and go over to Coach Mary, who I mentioned again last week. Now, she really is doing some truly incredible things, especially for someone who's only been weightlifting now for maybe 3 years. It's ridiculous. You'll have to listen to the podcast that we did with her, where she actually says how many years it's been. I can't quite remember. I think it's somewhere around 2.5 to 3 years. But this week, she posted a video of a 165 kilo jerk triple. Now, that's 3 kilos more than Sarah Robles' American record 162, which happens to be the most weight that any American woman has ever put over her head. And she did 3 kilos more for 3. She didn't clean it, and she didn't clean and jerk it, so it's not as impressive. It doesn't count. To some extent, who cares? But at the end of the day, this podcast is basically training videos, so we have to care about this. 165 for 3. She then went and did 170 kilos for a single, 8 kilos over the American record. It's just mind-boggling. So shout out, of course, to Coach Mary. And then it wouldn't be a Weightlifting House news show if we didn't touch on Kate Nye and Mattie Rogers, because once again, they're doing some great things. This week, not so much exciting stuff from Kate. She's still very much in a building phase, though she did post a video of a 170 kilo back squat double, which I think, considering her best, is exactly 400 pounds, 182. She did it just prior to the 2019 World Championships. This is a big lift. I mean, we're in the 95th percentile basically here for a double. She's clearly in pretty decent strength in terms of her leg strength. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing her push that 180, 185, maybe 190 before Tokyo 2021. But really it was Mattie Rogers who did the exciting stuff this week. She hit 141 kilos for a jerk double. Now, bearing in mind, the American record in the 71 kilo class is 137, held by Kate Nye. The American record in the 76 kilo class is 139, held by Jenny Arthur. And realistically, Mattie Rogers is a 76 right now. In fact, I think it was a week ago that she said that she weighed 76.6 or something like that. She probably weighs 77-ish now, because of course she is going to move up for the Olympic Games. I would imagine, that's not official, but I would imagine that's probably what's going to happen. So this 141 is 2 kilos over that 76 kilo American record. She then went and hit a 145 single, and she then went and hit a 150 kilo single in the split jerk off the blocks on what I think was day one of a training camp over at Catalyst Athletics, where, of course, she now is a member of the team. Now, as well as her sensational 150 kilo split jerk off the blocks, she also hit a 130 kilo double from the high hang in the clean. Now, this was sort of the same positioning that you would do for a high hang snatch, or for a hip snatch, I guess. Vertical torso, it's just a bend in the knees, there's no real hip hinge. And she does this, so it's a very, very high hang position in the clean. 130 for a double, probably the fastest I've really seen her even stand up those kinds of weights. I think her best in the clean and jerk in competition is 134. That's a weight that she's hit twice now. 2017 World Championships, 2019 World Championships. She then worked up and hit a 140 kilo high hang clean as well. So again, huge lifting from Mattie this week. Moving down now to Brazil, we have Fernando Reis, the strongest man in the Pan-American region ever, at least in terms of the snatch and clean and jerk. And he mentioned on the Weightlifting House podcast last week that he did a 350 kilo back squat in training recently. Now, this counted as the most he's ever back squatted, but it clearly wasn't a true max. And we found that video, so you can watch that video here if you're watching the news show on YouTube. He also then posted a video of a training session where he went 180 to 30. So at that point, we're looking at a 90% snatch and a 95% clean and jerk. So he's in good shape, even if, you know, the snatch is maybe just 21 kilos off what we've seen him do before. But even so, 90-95% from him. He then hit some powers, a 160 power snatch and a 210 kilo power jerk out of the rack. So great lifting from him. He's clearly in good shape. From Samoa, Don Opeloge, the 96 kilo lifter, had a video posted by the weightlifting platform. If you don't know who the weightlifting platform are, they're basically a weightlifting media group that cover all of the lifting from the Oceanic region. Definitely worth a follow on Instagram if you want to catch up with everything that's happening in Samoa, New Zealand, Australia, those kinds of countries. But Josh from the weightlifting platform posted a video of a 170 kilo snatch by Don Opeloge. Now, this is actually a huge improvement from the World Championships, where he only hit 151. To be fair, Don did underperform, I would say, at those World Championships, and perhaps that 151 wasn't particularly representative of the strength level that he was actually at. He was probably more in the low 160s, but even so, 170 is the most that I've seen from him, so great lifting from Don. And next, and finally, before we get to the people's lifts, we have a repeat offender from Australia, 73 kilo Brandon Wakeling, who just competed at a competition that allows him to hit national records but not international records. And so I'm going to go through the records that he set. He went 127, 175. That 175 is so big for him. He's really making great progress. In fact, he PR'd recently, and I posted that on the podcast too. A couple of weeks ago. You could probably see it if you go back. But anyway, I'm going to have to read out these records because there's no way I can sort of hold all of these or retain this information in the back of my head. He set so many records. So that 127, 175 was an Australian snatch, clean and jerk total record. It was an unofficial Oceania clean and jerk and total record. And it was an unofficial Commonwealth clean and jerk record. So anyway, Brandon weightlifting, you set about 12 unofficial records there, about 12 official ones. Great lifting, 127, 175. Go and follow Brandon. And that, guys, is the end of the main section of the podcast, but we're not properly done. We still have the people's lifts. Now, if you want to be on the people's lifts, you want to get on the podcast, you want to get on the YouTube, all you have to do is use the hashtag weightliftinghouse or, and the one that's become a little bit more popular recently, hashtag the people's lifts. I go through the videos, I like some of them, I kind of just snoop through some of them silently, and if I see a video that I really like, I choose it and I put it on the podcast. So that's how you get on. Now, this week we've got some great ones. We've got a video by ESPN, we have a video by Snatch and Snacks, but I'm actually going to kick things off with a guy that I met online who's done a little bit of work for Weightlifting House. It's Full Metal Lifter, at Full Metal Lifter, aka David Beyer. That's his proper name, not Full Metal Lifter. And if you've seen more than one Weightlifting House video, you've probably seen the little intro and outro thing that I have that looks really cool. But it was David who actually made that. So shout out to David just initially off the bat for making that cool animation. So this week he hit a 112 kilo above the knee block snatch, which I think is maybe a couple kilos more than he's ever done from the floor. And I've kind of watched him over the last few years work his way up from basically a 100 kilo snatcher all the way up now to getting 112 kilos over his head. He then also posted a video of a front squat plus clean plus jerk, which is a complex I have never seen before. And I did read that out right. It was not a clean front squat jerk. It was a front squat, drop the bar, clean jerk. It started up in the rack. He did that at 134 kilos. Again, that's another PR for him in that movement. And I want to say that's only 3 kilos under his best ever clean and jerk of 137. So great lifting by David this week. And then just generally, he's doing really well. His training's going well, his coaching's going well, his business is going well. And you can follow his coaching page as well at Enter the Meta on Instagram. Next, we have a lift posted by Snatch and Snacks, who, if you don't know, is one of the most innovative, creative weightlifting pages. I guess they've kind of moved a little bit into MMA too, pages on Instagram. I absolutely love them. I've been following them right since they first started. And I saw a lift and I actually just liked it. And then I read the caption and I realized, okay, this is actually something that I particularly want to post and support. So the video itself is of at Scarlet Red 36, so Scarlet RED 36 on Instagram, snatching. And what Snatch and Snacks has done is he's turned the barbell plates, these red 25s, into red hearts, and it looks very realistic. It looks very cool. So what they're doing is raising money for cancer patient support. So they're providing emergency assistance to patients who are struggling financially. Now, many of you who know me know that my ex-mentor, Glenn Pendlay, died of cancer. And so this is a cause, I guess, that is slightly closer to my heart. And so what I figured I would do is not only post the lift because it's a sick lift, not only post the edit because Snatch and Snacks did such a great job editing it, but also post the link in the description. It might be here on the screen. It depends what happens with the edit of this video. And at the very least, it's in Scarlet Red 36, his Instagram page. So if you do want to support and help raise money for cancer patient support, then the links are all around. Next, we have 15-year-old 81 kilo Kristen Rowe at Kristen 81kg. That's Kristen with a K, Kriston 81kg, who is a lifter from Heartland Strength, which is a gym that I know reasonably well because I have friends who run it, which is an awesome gym. So go follow at Heartland Strength if you're interested. But Kristen Rowe just hit a 123 kilo back squat, which is so much more than anything I could do when I was 15. Kristen, if you are watching this, you are on the right track. I wish when I was 15 I was doing more than bench pressing like 40 kilos or something like that. I wish I knew what it was to snatch and clean a back squat. So Kristen, not only are you doing well, but you're in safe hands over there at Heartland Strength. He also then hit a 73 kilo snatch. He called it a squat snatch, but he's 15, so I'm going to let him off that. It's called a snatch, Kristen. But he has crazy speed, crazy depth, great character for weightlifting, basically. So shout out to Kristen Rowe at Kristen 81kg. Next, and I mentioned that I was going to talk about a post from ESPN. They found a video of a high school lifter who, he cannot be more than 200 pounds. There's no way. He's not a big guy. He's just he's not an average high schooler, but he's not anyone you would walk past and necessarily think they're a freak athlete. This kid just hit 400 pounds for a clean, And it's actually pretty technically decent too. I don't know whether he's trained in some weightlifting as well. He's a football player, and it was filmed, I think, as a high school football record or something like that. But 400 pounds as a high schooler, and he did it in the damn New Balance shoes. He wasn't even in weightlifting shoes. He was in the New Balances, and he hit that. It's just absolutely incredible. The talent that's out there in the world that's not involved in weightlifting is terrifying. And this kid's definitely got more than his fair share of it. So if you want to see that video, you'll have to go to the ESPN Instagram account. I know I'm supposed to be shouting out smaller accounts, but, if you find the guy who did the lift, follow that guy. Follow him, not ESPN, but it was ESPN who did it this time. Alright guys, that actually is the end of this week's episode. It didn't take as long as it did last time. I'm kind of getting used to the camera and the lights that are around me. This whole professional setup is getting a little bit easier to deal with. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Also, don't forget, discount code WeightliftingHouse at Virus. That gives you 10% off everything. And also, head over to Red H Nutrition. The link is down below. They're going to do great things for weightlifting in the supplement world. You can use code WeightHouse15. That's with a capital W and a capital H for 15% off everything. Guys, head over to weightliftinghouse.com. Bars, plates, books, t-shirts, hats, everything, thumb tape, you name it, we've got it over at weightliftinghouse.com. Really appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you all on Monday for another episode of the Weightlifting House podcast.